Assalamualaikum, Warahmatullahi, Wabarakatuh, and welcome back to my podcast, y'all. I have been gone for, I think, like 8 months or so, more than 8 months, and I have grown and changed since then. I honestly think I kind of like may have started my podcast too prematurely because I was so early on in my like transition into Islam, and I still needed to learn more and stuff like that. um, Later on next week, the 24th, will make 1 year since I became Muslim. Alhamdulillah. I can't believe that it's been like a year already, and I have learned so much and have grown so much. So I am back, and I'm back to share so much of what I learned since I've been gone. A lot has happened, and all of that. So, with that being said, I wanted to dedicate this episode to my reflections of my first Ramadan, my first Eid Al-Fitr, my first Eid Al-Adha, and what I learned from those, experiencing that for the first time. So, let's just dive right into it. And let's start with Ramadan. So, as a new Muslim, everybody's like, oh, Ramadan, you have to fast, you have to worry about the fasting. Like, that is all I've heard, like, I need to be worried about, I need to prepare myself for, and all that stuff was for fasting. So I was like, oh my goodness, Ramadan's coming, we have to fast. Like, that was like the biggest thing that, like, was in my mind and what everybody at my mosque and stuff was telling me about and stuff like that. So, I would say I was more worried about the fast because I think maybe everybody was like hyping me up about worried about the fast type of thing. Um, I wasn't really worried about because some people they like detox themselves from like music, watching certain TV shows, like trying to block yourself from like haram things that's somewhat incorporated into our daily lives and stuff like that. So I was like fine with that aspect, but I was like worried about the fasting because, for Ramadan, you fast from you stop, you have to wake up like either an hour or 2 hours before Fajr, which is at dusk, which is like a few, like maybe 1 to 2 hours before sunrise, depending on like the time and stuff like that. So you have to like eat before your first prayer of the day, which is really early in the morning. And the next time you can eat is at sunset. And you're fasting with not eating and not drinking anything. So like you have to hydrate and eat for like 12 hours or whatever it is, depending on like what month and stuff Ramadan is coming in and all that. So I was like, I need to prepare because I have never done anything like this in my life before. So a few weeks before Ramadan, I fasted for 2 days. So I woke up, I think it was like an hour before Fajr. And like one morning, because I didn't know like how much food I would need because everybody's different. Some people they can just eat a light meal and they're fine. So the first day I had some fruit because like it was really hard for me to eat that early in the morning. So I had some fruit, I drank some water and stuff like that. And like I'm at work and come noontime, I was like, I am hungry. And I was like, I am really thirsty. I was like, I can't just like survive off of fruit and stuff like that. So I'm like, okay, good thing I'm doing this test run before like the real Ramadan is here. And I'm just like, you know, on the bridge of a breakdown or something like that. But the next day I woke up, I think I had lamb chops with couscous, some veggies, some fruit. Then I drank like a whole bunch of water and like I was fine. So I was like, okay, I need like a whole meal in the morning time. I know some people like you will see like people like on social media posting that for Fajr, oh, I had with some avocado toast and some coffee and stuff like that, and I was fine. No, for this girl, I need a whole meal because like I'm not a big breakfast person, but um like lunch is like I would say like my heaviest meal of the day. So like come noontime, it's like my body's like, wait, sis, where is the food that we normally eat? So I had to get over that. So that was like that part. So I realized that, okay, when I wake up, I need to have like a heavy meal that can last until sunset. So I fasted all of Ramadan. as a new Muslim, which I didn't know if I was trying to do that, but I was like, let me see. I didn't want to put too much pressure on myself because it's my first Ramadan, but I think I wanted like the experience of like what it would be like so I can know for my next Ramadan of what to expect and what to prepare for. So I fasted for each day, except for like women, you don't fast when you have your period. So I didn't fast during that time, obviously. Then most people are like, fasting is this, you're hungry all day, da da da. But for me, I found the fasting to be very beautiful in a sense. I don't know if that would make sense to people. There's a thrill of making sure that you wake up early, making sure that you like, you manage your water intake. Like it's all calculations basically. It's all like a big math equation of like, is this gonna substitute like this gonna give you enough substance for the day? Because you don't know because some days are different than others. So the thrill of that. Um, the thrill of like after you're eating like a whole big meal, then you have to like go pray afterwards so your stomach is full and stuff like that. And for some people who struggle to wake up for Fajr prayer because it's really early in the morning, you're kind of praying Fajr on time, all that like time. So I think that's beautiful that like, during Ramadan, it like gives you the push to pray Fajr on time if you're struggling with praying Fajr on time and so forth. And the beauty of fasting is too because during this time it's supposed to give to charity and stuff like that. So when you're fasting, you think back and you can understand what it's like to not have food, that people who don't eat many days of the week because they don't have enough food, you understand what that hunger is, you understand how their energy may be low, like you feel for them, like you want to help them and stuff. And I think that's beautiful. You realize how much blessings you have in your life. With that being said, because you understand what it's like to not have food, there's such a beautiful and like beauty in giving back. It's one of the five pillars of Islam to give to charity and stuff like that. So during Ramadan, you're fulfilling one of the pillars and you understand the importance of the pillar. If you truly like are aware of what fasting is and like what it means to give to charity, if you're one of those people, it feels good to do that. You understand what certain people are going through in your community who don't have food every day. You understand the blessings that you have and stuff like that. So when you go and you give, it means more because you experience just a little glimpse of what they experience every day. Um, One of the most beautiful things for me during Ramadan was the spiritual connection. And there was just a different divine feeling in the air once Ramadan started, and I felt it. And a few people who are like deep feelers like me, and I guess have like the same level of like see faith the way I see it. We all talked about how feeling it, and my mom who was like um my mom who was at the mosque too, like she would come with me to support me and stuff like that. She was like, it feels different. There's like a different feeling. And I'm like, look at her, like she's even feeling the different feeling that it is when it comes to Ramadan and stuff like that. So it was so beautiful doing that and feeling a different feeling in the air. Like I always would see like Muslim people talking about, oh, they can't wait for the next Ramadan. It's just like a beautiful experience. And I was like, oh, I wonder why they say that. Like, I wonder what that feels like. I honestly, truly understood what they meant after feeling that. It was like I don't know how to explain it. It was just like a more calming and like divine connection that you were feeling. Um, One thing that I did for I would say I try to go to Taraweeh as much as I can. So Taraweeh is like probably like around Isha time. They have recitations of the Quran. So each mosque tries to recite the whole Quran by the end of Ramadan. So you'll be like there from like 9 to 3 a.m. if you can. For some people who have to go to work, they leave. So you're like there for many hours and you're standing up in prayer and the mosque is packed. It's like the packest I ever seen the mosque because everybody's there for Ramadan because it's like the holiest holiday. So everybody is there and the mosque is packed and I'm like, whoa, where all these people came from? And it's so beautiful that they're coming to like, for Ramadan and stuff like that. So You're all packed there. You're hearing the Quran recited, and then you're like praying prayers, and you're standing like when the imam is reciting like parts of the Quran. It could be like between 5 to 10 minutes, and you're just standing there and you're waiting for the next part of prayer to happen. And it's hot. Everybody's next to each other, and you're sweating, and you're trying not to drink too much water because like if you go to the bathroom, the process of getting back, you lose your spot that you were on. If you have stuff in that spot, you have to try and get it back later. There was beauty in the chaos of it all because it all makes it even more special. Like that you're going through all these challenges, but you're doing it because you love Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Like that was like beautiful to me. Terry hearing the Quran recited and stuff like that. And I remember like so there's one imam at my mosque who I just love when he recites when he recites the Quran. Like I just love it. And I remember him reciting it and I was just started like crying really hard. And I'm like, oh my goodness, I'm like crying here. And I remember sitting next to some girls that I see at the mosque and I talk to when I see them. And I remember crying and I said, like, I'm just so happy to be here because I didn't think that I could experience something so beautiful like this. If you would have asked me like a year ago, they're saying, oh, you're going to be Muslim and you're going to be at Ramadan and you're going to experience this. I just felt so lucky in myself that I could experience something so beautiful and like that. And, just be there during Taraweeh. And it was like some of my best moments of being a Muslim is standing in Taraweeh, being tired, your feet hurt from standing and stuff like that. But you're doing it because you love Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and you want to be closer to him and you know the significance of Ramadan and stuff like that. So I thought that that was beautiful. And I think about like how I was there as best as I can. And honestly, at the time I was working my regular 9 to 5 job plus a part-time job. So I was doing all of that, and sometimes I will leave my part-time job to go to Taraweeh. Like I would be up from like work probably like 12 hours while fasting, and then go home or like eat at my part-time job and like go to Taraweeh. And I was just looking back, I'm like, girl, how did you do it? But I just honestly think it was the strength of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and my will to be there. And during that whole process, like I said, I was, surprised that I did all of that. I felt tired physically, but I felt strengthened spiritually, if that makes sense. Like my physical body was tired, exhausted, but my spiritual side, my inner side was charged, was like this is beautiful, getting connections, feeling Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and all of that. Like I would go through all that tiredness and all that stuff again to get that feeling. That feeling it was the best feeling I've ever felt. When I was a Christian, I never felt that spiritual connection ever like I did when I was standing tired, sweating in Taraweeh. Like nothing has made me feel that close to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And I remember telling someone that everybody talks about Ramadan, everybody talks about fasting, but no one talks about how you feel closer to Allah, to feel closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. No one tells you that. No one tells you that like when you're in Taraweeh and you're praying and you're hearing the recitation of the Quran, and the Quran is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's words, and you're hearing that, it honestly feels like Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is there and hugging you. Like that's what it feels. And when I talk about it, it gets me very emotional because that's what it felt like to me. It felt like when I was staring in Taraweeh that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala was there hugging me. Like I never felt that before. And I was telling some sisters, I was like, no one told me that this is what Ramadan is about. No one told me that you were gonna feel closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Everyone told me to focus on the fast, but no one told me about feeling close to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And one lady said something and it kind of stuck out to me. She goes, the people you were probably talking to probably doesn't have the same connection to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala as you do. That connection that you felt is not for them. It's between you and Allah. Not everybody's gonna have that same feeling. and I had to take back and myself. And it was just like, that is true. The connection that I have is not the same connection that everybody else is going to have. Me and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's relationship may be different. Everybody's going to have a different relationship with him. There's people more faithful than me. There's people less faithful than me. But the fact that this was my first Ramadan and I got to feel that connection with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, I couldn't believe it. Like, what did I do to deserve that connection? You know what I mean? That's what it felt like to me. Like, I only been Muslim for like so long, and I get to feel that, like, subhanallah, like, that is a blessing because not many people get to feel that, but I did. And through the beauty of you getting closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and through Ramadan, and you're trying not to practice so much things of this world and not really trying to focus on dunya and stuff like that. I felt like I was trying to slowly, because I'm still a new Muslim and I'm still like trying to figure out what to like take away that's too much of this world of dunya versus like what I want to do spiritually, what type of Muslim do I want to be, and stuff like that. So I was in the process of that, but then I realized like how much stuff is like toxic, like in our culture. Like I knew there was toxic stuff, but I feel like it like really hit me more than like when I was like observing it and stuff like that. And it made me want to go through stuff and be like, okay, what am I consuming? What am I doing? What is the agenda here and stuff like that? So the Ramadan, I got to focus more on that. And I'm still learning that as well, of what things I want to see and what things I don't, and what I want to be a part of and what I don't want to be a part of anymore. Maybe in another episode, I'll talk more about that. So during Ramadan, I wrote a poem, and it is called The Spirit of Ramadan. Whispers of divine intervention surround me. I close my eyes and let it consume me. Allah Akbar to a phrase that is so clear. Gratitude is something always near. Divinity has no words, just feelings. The Almighty words and spirits is always near. Listen to them in order for your questions to be clear. Subhanallah to be able to feel it. Subhanallah to be able to hear it. Divine intervention is pure. Don't take it for granted because it's the perfect detour. Wudu and 2 rakats to say thank you. Let the pureness of the one with no ending consume you. Let it heal you and make you wiser, not only for you, but for the Almighty too. So after Ramadan, it's a holiday called Eid Al-Fitr. So that's like a big celebration because Ramadan is ending, and now we have a few days of feasting and eating and like being around your loved ones and all of that. So I woke up early again because the prayer I think was like 8 or something. I can't remember what time it was, but the prayer was at 8. And I remember feeling excited and happy, and I brought my mom along with me because she was there to support and stuff like that. And I remember going in there, and I didn't know like what was going to happen, what to expect. And I started to hear what they call takbirs, I believe. And all I heard was Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar, La ilaha illallah. And I was like, what is this beautifulness? Like, what is happening here? And I remember walking up to go find a seat. And it was like 3 of our mosques that came together locally. And there's only 3. And there's like so many more mosques in our area. And I remember seeing the people and looking at everybody dressed nicely in their like traditional clothes, looking their best. And I'm like, subhanAllah, this is beautiful. Like, look at all of us here. We all like fasted during Ramadan. We're all here to celebrate. And we're all here listening to this takbir and stuff like that. And I was just like, this is so beautiful. And it was just happy to see it. Then when we had to pray, just seeing like, I don't even know how many of us was there. Like, it got to be more than 300, 400, 500. I don't know. It could have been 1,000. I don't know because there's people upstairs and downstairs. And I remember we're all praying together. And just to see us, a whole bunch of us beautiful Muslims of different races and stuff like that, because people mostly think that Islam is associated with the Middle East because of Arabic and it's starting over there and stuff like that. But the countries that have the most Muslims is Indonesia, Pakistan, and Nigeria, I believe. Like I think that's the order. So our next big holiday was Eid Al-Adha. Honestly, I didn't know much about this holiday as much as I knew about like Ramadan and Eid Al-Fitr. A lot of it I learned like 3 days before the event. So, and that could be, I kind of blame myself for not doing more research and stuff like that. But I don't think I would know what to research, if that makes sense. I'd be like, oh, Eid al-Adha, what is it? And it would tell me that this holiday is to celebrate to the Prophet Ibrahim, which is like Abraham. And around this time is when people go to Hajj, which is one of the five pillars of Islam, and it's a pilgrimage to Mecca and Medina to see the holy sites and stuff like that. So the whole holiday is to celebrate like Abraham and for him being one of the first people to say that there is only one God. And as you've known, like the whole story of him and like testing his faith is when he couldn't have a son and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala finally blessed him with a son. And as he got older, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala told him that if, like, basically, if you believe in me, blah, 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 I need you to sacrifice your son. So when he went to go sacrifice his son, God changed his son to a lamb. This is a short story. There's more into it. I probably didn't explain it right. I am not an Islamic scholar. I am just Brittany. So during this time, you also give to charity and stuff like that. That's what I love, that you have to think about those who are in worse situations than you. And you have to sacrifice an animal to like commemorate like how the lamb and Prophet Ibrahim. So with this animal that you get, you keep 1/3 of the meat to yourself, you give 1/3 of the meat to your family and friends, and then you give the other third to people in need. And the whole purpose is so that during these days of festivities, nobody's going hungry. And overall, what I've learned from these holidays is that if you truly look at the meaning, you truly have a deep connection with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, these holidays bring you closer and make you want to learn more. And you understand more of the commands that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala left for us. And most importantly, this validated that my decision to become Muslim was the best decision for me. So I hope you like my reflections of my first Ramadan, Eid Al-Fitr, and Eid Al-Adha. Thank you for listening to me again after I've been gone for so long. So, Assalamualaikum, Warahmatullahi, Wabarakatuh.